There's magic, and there's gathering. You can't say that on Christian radio.
Nope, it's true. My name is Jesse. Her name is Therese. And together, we host Main and Gable, an afternoon radio show on family life. Now, I bore Therese with my obsessions and my hobbies, one of which is a game called Magic the Gathering. You might have heard of it. I'm not going to bore you with how it all works, but the idea of the game is that you and the people you're playing with, you're like wizards, and you're fighting each other, and sometimes you're throwing lightning bolts at each other, and sometimes you're throwing dragons at each other, and or knights and castles, and you're fighting.
Is this with, like, cards, or is it with, like, game pieces?
Yes, it's with cards, and there are, like, hundreds of thousands of them. I don't know how many there are, but there's everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Lord of the Rings to Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's all kinds of different cards out there. But again, the basics of the game is that you're kind of a wizard and you're fighting other Magic users. Now, I really liked the game. I'd been playing it for months, and I was talking to somebody about it, and they very non-judgmentally, very non-condemningly, they were just talking to me about their convictions regarding witchcraft and magic, and especially those kind of themes in entertainment. They said, as an example, I wouldn't make or play a game that was all about, say, human trafficking. Like, obviously,
because that's a serious issue.
It's a serious thing, and I'm not going to entertain myself with, well, what if I did this thing? Like, it's absolutely wrong. So why would I play a game and entertain myself with witchcraft, which the Bible also condemns? And I was like, that's a really good point. I need to take some time to think about that. So I actually, for a number of weeks, I set Magic the Gathering aside. I didn't pick it up. I didn't play it. I didn't sift through my cards. I didn't watch videos about it. I just left it alone and took some time to think. And I really did some deep research into what the Bible has to say about witchcraft and sorcery and magic and those kinds of things, and thought deeply about what we entertain ourselves with as Christians. And, is this something that I should be letting in? And I could go into great detail, but the conviction that I ended up coming to was I looked at the fruit that Magic the Gathering as an interest, as a hobby, has borne in my life. And the fruit was, well, I've gotten closer to my friends. I have a common hobby with some friends that I didn't really know before, and I've gotten to know them through this thing. That's good.
Good thing,
right?
Yeah.
We've shared a lot of laughs. We've shared a lot of good times together, little game nights where we'd all get together and play. And the bad fruit, well, I've spent a little bit of money on it. I've spent $10 here and there. That's about it. I haven't gotten more interested in the occult. I haven't gravitated toward black magic. I'm not planning on sacrificing my firstborn anytime soon. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna schedule a game night with my friends. We're gonna play Magic. And if I feel like, oh, this is icky, I don't like this, I'm entertaining myself with the sins Christ died for, I'll step away from it. Wasn't even a thought in my mind the whole night. But by the end, I was like, oh, yeah, I was supposed to be paying attention for that feeling. Didn't feel it at all. So that's kind of I just wanted to tell that story to illustrate. That's where I am in my journey and convictions with witchcraft and games we play that involve it. Totally open for someone else to convict me and blow me out of the water if I'm deep in sin. But right now, praying about it and talking with God about it, I don't feel anything.
I actually have a problem with that statement. Someone else can convict me because no one else can convict you.
Good catch.
And that's kind of what the of this whole thing is. Christians are not called to withdraw from culture. And sometimes I think in the effort to remain holy and set apart, we set apart ourselves so much that our influence on the world is nil, which if you've looked at our world, the world needs more of us. It needs more Christians influencing it, right? So you can do something like play Magic the Gathering as a hobby as long as you guard your heart and mind. Now, I did a little research. There are fantasy elements to Magic the Gathering. Shocking statement. I've never played this game before.
She just collects Disney pins. That's her collector
thing. That's a whole other thing, and I have no problem with that. I've never been invited to Jesse's house. So maybe that's the real
Whoa,
sin
hey,
here.
yes.
Okay, but there is this fantasy element of spells and sorcery and mystical creatures and magical powers. No actual spell casting is happening. The Bible does say be careful about being involved with real occult practices. These are real forces that oppose God. Let no one be found among you who practices sorcery or interprets omens or engages in witchcraft. That's Deuteronomy 18. It says engages in, not pretends about. Two very different things. And it's if you have a cautious approach to something like Magic the Gathering, that's cool. If you feel a personal conviction to avoid the game entirely, that's fine. If the idea of even being near something that is pretending to have mystical, magical powers bothers you in the soul, by all means, stay away from it. But other Christians, like Jesse, are able to distinguish between fictional fantasy storytelling and real spiritual practices. The Bible condemns actual occult activity, not imagination. And that is the big difference. A lot of people who subscribe to the same thought as you do, Jesse, they'll say it's like Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings, and these were both written by Christians and filled with the idea of magical elements to tell moral and spiritual stories, which makes me ask, does this game draw your heart toward Christ or does it draw it away from Christ? I'm going to venture a guess that in this game where there is good and evil, that there may actually be biblical themes that kind of play out.
Yeah. I find this funny. There are memes that go around, and my friends have even posted to some. It's like Christian parents deciding what magic is okay and what's not. Like Harry Potter, boo, bad. Lord of the Rings, hey, that's nice. And it's like, okay, is that hypocrisy or is there like a genuine conviction here? And I think there can be. We're storytellers as human beings, and I think that's what the storytelling element is what makes Magic the Gathering as a game really alluring. Because if it was all just math and numbers and my red triangle is going to attack your blue circle, that's not fun. But my chromatic dragon attacking your fire elemental, that's okay, now the creative spark is there. So what is the story that you're telling? If the purpose of your story is to give glory to God and to tell a story of good versus evil and weave God's goodness into it, kind of the way C.S. Lewis does with Chronicles of Narnia, then I can totally see there being a place for magic. If the purpose of the story is just to double down on how awful the world is and to just leave you feeling miserable at the end, or maybe try to lure you into exploring occult practices, then I think obviously there's room for caution there.
Right.
And either way, whatever the story is, if your conviction is, hey, I'm staying away from Chronicles of Narnia because I just don't feel good about magic, I'm not going to persecute you for that. I'm not going to tar and feather you. That's a decision that you are more than welcome to make. My personal conviction on a lot of those things is that magic in fiction doesn't lead me to want to practice it in real life. In fact, I think I know probably more than the average person about how actual real-world occult things work and how to avoid them because I've done the research on it and I've wanted to know, okay, what is fiction and what is real? I think there's value in that.
At the heart of salvation is freedom. Christ gives us the freedom to accept salvation, the freedom to walk away from salvation, the freedom to live in our own free will. There's that, and then there's the personal conviction. And I think that's the thing about conviction. People can say, oh, we're convicted. We collectively are not convicted as Christians. Conviction is a personal matter. It is a personal conviction. And two Christians can fundamentally believe the same truths about Christ. that Christ was born to a virgin, that he lived a sinless life, that he died on the cross, that he rose again on the third day, that he's going to return again. We can agree with all of those truths and still have different convictions about things like movies and books and TV and card games. Okay, really at the heart of it. So the questions that I think we have to ask about this game or about anything that we might spend our time on is, how am I stewarding this? You know, you mentioned I've probably spent $10 on cards. Okay, I would look at that and say, that is a reasonable amount of money to spend on something that you find, you know, moderately or above entertaining, you know, and I don't think anyone would battle you on that. You know, there's money, there's time, there's your heart and your mind. Does this game strengthen my walk with God? Does it distract me from important things in my faith? Can I engage with it in a healthy way? Is it allowing me to influence other people in a positive way for Christ? You know, when your friends get together, is it talk of spiritual things or does it turn into talk of worldly things? Be very careful with how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity. That's in Ephesians 5. I believe you can have a gathering with your friends who come to your home, where you show them hospitality in a very Christ-like way, where you can have conversations that are edifying, that you can have fun and not have this be an occult practice. Other people may not be able to do the same thing. That's what makes the conviction personal.
I think what I really was convicted by in the end of all this, what I did kind of learn were a couple things. One, as I approach this game that I've decided that I can play in a genuine way, what am I trying to get out of it? Is this just war? Am I like trying to intellectually beat my friends at this game and be the one coming out on top? Is it like unhealthy competition? Or do I genuinely want to have fun with them? Like I've actually kind of started changing the way that I play it to try to just make sure that everybody there has a great time and comes away with a few laughs and a few good stories rather than, well, I need to beat everybody else and statistically come out on top. You know, shocker that's maybe not the best motivation to be playing a game. The other one was I think that I have gotten to a point, because I'm so immersed in fantasy fiction, that I was kind of desensitized to how convicted other people are about magical themes. Like, I think I was kind of just throwing them around like everybody accepted them, and not everybody does. Like, yes, I absolutely agree, Therese. Like, we all need to arrive on our own convictions about different games or elements of fiction, but not everybody's going to agree. I can't just assume that everybody's on the same page as me. So I am trying to be a little more sensitive about who I introduce to the game, or who I, invite to a game night, or who I talk about these things with, because for some people, they are going to be convicted, and that's okay.
Right.
The purpose of this episode of the podcast is not to say Magic the Gathering is universally great. It's a great idea for everyone. Every Christian should play this.
No.
But you got to know who you are. You got to know who Jesus is. You got to know what things can have an influence on you and what roads they're leading you down.
I think that's kind of the heart of what this podcast is a place where we hope to open dialogue. We've gotten to a place in our society and even within our church where we can't talk about things for fear of offending someone or having to cancel someone. And I don't think that that's at all how God wants us to live. Christ asked questions all the time that he knew the answer to just because he wanted to engage someone in thought and conversation. And so let's keep this a healthy place of thought and conversation. You may agree with what's been said on this episode. You might disagree with it. We love you just the same, and we hope that you feel the same about us. At the end of the day, we can't ask, is this allowed when it comes to things like this? There are things in the Bible that are clearly spoken about as yes and no. This is not one of them. This is not a fundamental belief issue. This is a personal conviction issue. So does this draw me closer to Christ? Does this reflect his character? And whether or not you play a game that has magic in the title, you have to ask that. You could play Monopoly with a heart that does not at all reflect the Lord.
Yeah, you cannot serve both God and money.
Right.
So the root of all evil.
You could definitely turn a Monopoly game into something that is not good for your faith walk at all, in the same way that someone could play Magic the Gathering and not let it be detrimental to their faith walk. So at the end of the day, asking the questions of each other and of the Lord, making sure that you are doing what He has called for you in a very personal way. That's what it's all about. So gathering and magic, can't say that on Christian radio.
Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, you could subscribe, maybe. And if you really liked it, you could always say so by making a gift to Family Life, the ministry this podcast is a part of. Just go to familylife.org and find out more about what we do.
Our producer is Josh Yellen. How could we ever thank you enough? Did you know that Family Life offers a variety of podcasts? Get up to date with Family Life news, including the Noon Report and the 5 o'clock reports. There's If That Makes Sense, a conversation for Christians in their 20s. They're all free and on demand at familylife.org/podcast.